So here we have the 3-6 matchup. We have the Memphis Grizzlies and the Dallas Mavericks. Man, what a series that would be, especially if Ja was able to come back. Wow, that would be crazy first round. Yeah, facts. So Michael, let's stay with Memphis, and then we'll go to Dallas. Let's talk about the Grizzlies real fast. We know the situation with Ja. We know he's taking some time off, but they've still been playing well. They got some really big wins as of late. People can say what they want about Dylan Brooks.
Sorry to cut you off, CJ, but apparently, according to some rumors, he should be back tomorrow. I don't know how true that is, but that's what they're saying.
Okay. Well, yeah. That's a big deal. That's a big deal to be able to come back as quickly as possible, especially right before the season ends. Mm-hmm. That's great. That's great. But even in his absence, they've been playing some great basketball. Dylan Brooks, I know he's definitely a player where he can be annoying, and a lot of people don't like him. And he did that with the shove with the cameraman and things like that. He does things that are definitely annoying. But on the court, he's a player. He plays defense. He knocks down shots. He can actually create his own shot as well. And he just brings that type of toughness that a team like Memphis that they've had for the majority of their franchise. When you look at the grit and grind years with Gasol and Zebo and Mike Conley. That's what their identity has been. So I just see them continuing that mindset and that identity for the Grizzlies when you see a guy like Dylan Brooks. Michael, what's your thoughts on the Memphis Grizzlies, and with Ja coming back now, with Nick just reported possibly tomorrow?
I think that's big for Memphis. I think it's huge for Memphis to get Ja back, especially for these last 10 plus or minus games, give or take a few there, just so they can gel back together and let Ja take back over the role of being the leader and see what actually has corresponded with what's happened in his absence, what's going on, to what his mindset is as far as leading the team on the court. Now, I'm not trying to say anything about off the court, anything there, but with the time that he's taken away, has he kept himself in condition? Is he still thinking basketball, or is he more worried about getting himself right in the head of whatever went on? I'm going to leave it at that part of it because we don't know exactly what all was going on. That's a whole different story that I'd like to get into, but we'll take that on maybe a special episode that we could maybe do a 15-minute video or something on later. Who knows? But for Memphis, I think it's big. Getting back to that, making a long circle there, coming back to it. But I don't know if Memphis has enough firepower across the board to match with Dallas's two-headed dragon that they have with Luka and Kyrie. And, of course, when Wood is playing well, it's a great trio. So I'm going to give – and I'm not going to go into Dallas too much because I know we want to try to break it down each once. So Memphis, I feel like they are one of these teams that are being a great in-season team, but when it comes to playoff time, they haven't jumped over that hump yet. Maybe this could be the time, but their matchup and their first-round matchup of who they got, I don't see it happening yet. It may have to be another year when they get a 1 or 2 seed that they can get one of these play-in teams where they can actually make that second-round jump. So I am going to say I'm a seller when it comes to the Memphis in this playoff run.
Oh, man. This is a good series. If it were to happen, this would be a really great series. But they're gonna hate me for this one. I'm gonna rock with Memphis in this round. If it does come to life, if this series were to actually happen, I think that the depth of Memphis is a little bit more deeper than Dallas. Now we all know that they have the tandem of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. You can't deny that. Those are two phenomenal scorers, who are definitely going to lead the way for Dallas, especially in that series. But overall, especially once you get 12 back, 12 as referring to John Morant, then you combine that with a guy like, I don't know if people have been paying attention, man, and it's like maybe this is just because Ja's been out recently, but like I really mentioned how, or I really liked how the Grizzlies have really made a focus to really get Jaren Jackson Jr. more involved. He's showing his ball handling ability, obviously his floor spacing, his ability to, attack the rim. He's really putting the ball on the floor and really making plays for others. Now, I don't know if that will change once Ja gets back. It probably will change, but if they make more of an effort to get Jaren Jackson Jr. more engaged into the offensive end, which they should, which Taylor Jenkins definitely should. Like I feel like that'll make I feel like that will make Memphis definitely more dangerous because I mean you already got the tandem of Ja, you got Desmond Bane who can shoot the lights out, on any occasion. Then of course you got a great supporting cast, Tyus Jones, Steven Adams being that rim protector, and then the list just goes on and on. So in my opinion, I feel like Memphis has the more depth than Dallas, so that I feel like that's what's going to give them that edge. But you can't knock Kyrie and Luka and what they're able to bring to the table.
Yeah, that's going to be a phenomenal series for sure. If that were to play out, Memphis they have a really good team. They have a really good team. They're well coached, so that's always going to be a factor in regards to talking about them. Ja coming back is ultimately the biggest thing because he's still a special player and he's a game changer. And he's a guy that could take over the game at any given moment. I do think losing Brandon Clark for the season is a big loss. Prayers up to him towards Achilles, get back healthy, be ready to lock in. When it's your time to get back on the court. Steven Adams has struggled with some injuries as well. Then throughout this, second half of the season, pretty much a little bit before that as well. That's going to be a factor, and they're going to need that. They're going to need the size, and they're going to need those big men to get those rebounds to seal off those defenders, so Ja could get easier looks at the rim because we know he has a smaller frame. So you have guys like Steven Adams that's sealing off of the centers and some of these other defenders to create easier lanes for Ja. It's perfect, and it gets him into a rhythm, and teams' defense is going to have to collapse, and that's when those guys like Bane, Triple J, Brooks, Kennard now was a solid pickup in the trade deadline that they were able to acquire. Just more floor spacers, and the more floor spacers you have, and the more shooters out that you have around Ja, the better. So they're going to be good, and they move the ball, they play the right way. That's why they've continued to have success even in Ja's absence. Just because of their system, they all bought in. It doesn't matter who plays. He could be it's kind of like similar to the Heat a little bit. The Heat with Spoelstra, just doesn't matter who they bring in. They're on the court like Strauss. Nobody was talking about Max Strauss 4 years ago, but he made a name for himself because he bought into that system. And I see a lot of players like that on the Grizzlies as well. And they have high IQ. You can't play on that team if you don't have high IQ. So that's why they've been successful. And in the playoffs, it's going to be rough. It's going to be difficult because it's just a question of who's going to be that second guy next to Ja. It can be a collection of players, and I think that'll be the best case. But we know in the playoffs when it's a half court game and possessions get closer, the shot clock goes on longer, and you have to be able to make these plays. The defense is much more intense. You need players that could get buckets consistently and efficiently in these series. You're seeing the same team every other night, and we know what Ja brings to the table. We've seen definitely great seasons and stretches of games from Bane and Brooks and Jaren Jackson Jr., but can those guys bring it together for multiple series in a playoff run? That's going to be the question. If all three of those guys could bring it home and complement Ja at a high level, they could 1,000% be successful. And there's definitely time for them to do that. They're still very young. People just think they're going to be here also. Like I talked about Sacramento, they're not going anywhere either. They're going to continue to grow and have chemistry as well. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting because I'm sure that they're going to be motivated when they get Morant back, and people are sleeping on them. People think, they're not going to be as good, and people are definitely going to sleep on them. And I think that's just going to add to their fuel and that chip that they already have to begin with. So I'm excited to see what they do come playoffs.